Let's define science. I was at St. Cloud State. I was promoting this talk, and I'm at the kiosk, and that poster's hanging above me. And a student walks by and crinkles up his forehead and says, "What do you mean?" And I asked, "Well, what do you mean? What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, how can you have evolution versus science when evolution is science?" And we need to define the terms here. And so I asked him, "Well, what do you mean by science?" And he said, "Well, like experiments, like in a lab." And I said, "Oh, the type of science that's observable, testable, repeatable, falsifiable, the scientific method type of science?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, evolution's none of that." He said, "Well, sure it is." And I said, "Okay, name an experiment that proves evolution." And he said, "Well, there's lots of things." And I said, "Well, just give me your best thing. What's your best evidence for evolution?" And his eyes go to the ceiling for about 5 or 10 seconds, and he said, "Geology." And I asked him, "Well, what about geology?" And he says, "The layers of rock." And I said, "The geologic column?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "You got to be kidding. You believe that layers of sedimentary rock laid down by water all over the world proves that we came from a rock?" And he said, I said, that could just as easily point to a flood, a worldwide flood in the days of Noah. But why did I say it proves that we came from a rock? Because this is their general ed textbook, St. Cloud State. This is a page from it. They're trying to explain how life began. And it said, to the best of our knowledge, it should say to the best of our atheistic knowledge. And you go down there and it says that it rained on the rock for millions of years. So they believe that we came from rock. And I don't know about you, but I don't have enough faith to believe that one. But how did this happen? Well, the next paragraph explains it. Somehow. Somehow, despite the harsh environment, living organisms appeared. That's not science. That's not science. And so I'm talking to the student at the kiosk, and he said, "Well, what makes the most sense?" And I said, "Exactly. That you were created by God, or that hydrogen and helium turn into people." Because that's what the Big Bang says. Supposedly the Big Bang made hydrogen, helium, and a little bit of lithium. And I don't know, I don't have enough faith to believe hydrogen and helium turn into people. But I'm talking to that student, and at the very end he says, "You know what, I'm going to think about this." And that's a hallelujah breakdown moment when an evolutionist is going to think. Because you got to see both sides of an issue if you're going to think. And up until this point, all he's seen is what's in class, and that's only half the story. Okay, and so if he's intellectually honest, he's going to become a creationist like Gary Parker and Dean Kenyon and Spike Pizarris, and the list goes on. And even John Sanford, the inventor of the gene gun, the science led him to the creator. It's like there's no way this got together by chance.